This is Mick Foley.
Former WWE superstar Hornswoggle.
This is Dave LaGreca from Bustin' Open.
I am WWF's longest reigning light heavyweight champion, Gilbert, and you are now
somewhere in the ring.
Somewhere in the ring.
Somewhere in the ring.
Somewhere in the ring. Have a nice day.
Happy kind of opening day.
Opening
pitching in Japan. Yeah, because they're pitching in Japan. It'll be two Japanese-born pitchers, one for the Dodgers and I think one for the Giants.
Oh, wow.
In Japan. They're playing in Japan. I think it'll be on at probably a reasonable time for you. And then like 6 a.m. over here tomorrow.
It was crazy, man. When I was in Japan, somewhat recently, I was a day and a half ahead of
weird.
most people. It's so weird. So weird. Like, it's not just a couple hours you got to plan stuff. You got to plan by the day. It's just crazy. I don't know why I brought that up. I'm just bragging about having gone to Japan.
I mean, I mentioned Japan. I think you're allowed to say that you were in Japan when I bring it into the conversation.
Me go to place, said Andrew.
Hold on. I'm Andrew Sanford. You are Ryan Sprague, and this is Somewhere in the Ring, a podcast where we talk about wrestling. And I will say time zone stuff a little prevalent this week because here in the States, Monday Night Raw was on at 3 p.m. in the afternoon yesterday.
How was that?
The boys had ballet, so I caught the very end. And no, I actually watched it after the fact. And what's nice, at least for the most part, if you watch Raw on Netflix afterward, there are no too fewer commercials. Like, I actually watched, maybe they're selective about where they end up. But there was like one in the main event that I watched, but then I was watching Cena's promo this morning, and that was pretty much uninterrupted. Unfortunately, swish. I thought it was fine. It was fine. We'll get to that. But how was it for you being able to watch it at a reasonable time?
Since they've come over to Europe, it has just been heaven. I mean, for years, everyone in Europe complained about how they never get to watch any of this stuff live, really. And, I was always like, well, it's a US product, like, deal with it. And then I moved here and I totally get it. So now that we have the moment where we get to watch it live and interact on Twitter and Blue Sky and everything it's happening.
Thank God you get to interact on Twitter. Sorry, keep going.
About wrestling.
Thank goodness.
About wrestling.
Yeah. It's a short walk.
I know. It's been great. It's been great. And then again, this week we have SmackDown in Italy, and then Monday Night Raw in Glasgow, Scotland, which is literally 40-minute ride from where I am right now.
And then I think there's one more, right?
There might be.
I think there's, because I think it's for Raw. I remember them showing it's going to be like 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and then 3 p.m. again.
Okay. Yeah. So it's been great. Like, I actually get to sit down and watch it when the sun's not still up, and have a nice dinner and
some hot crowds. Yeah, absolutely. Yo, every time they go over to Europe, those crowds are on fire. It's very exciting. It makes the whole thing really fun.
So I have to ask you this now. When I'm not
before we get into Raw, just to tease for later, we're going to be talking about our Dream Rivalries. So stay tuned. Don't pause us just yet. We're going to do recap stuff, but then we're going to get into the Dream Rivalries as was advertised, and we have some fan and friend recommendations as well. So yeah, we're going to get to all those. But sorry, Ryan, keep your thought going. Let's dive into Raw.
Thank you for doing that. Well, I want to get your thoughts on these UK crowds, these chants. Now, I've listened to a lot of US-based wrestling podcasts when we're not making a podcast about wrestling, and a lot of them complain about how distracting it is to hear these ole, 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 like sort of stuff like that. And a lot of these podcast hosts say, like, this isn't a soccer game. Like, why are you doing that? But man, what do you think about that?
I always kind of like not bristle, but give like a little side eye whenever I hear people who are not wrestlers complain about fan noise, either chants or, and I would even go as far as to say not performers, but that might be like a little presumptuous. But I would say most of the people that usually complain about it are at the very least not wrestlers. There is nothing like being a performer and feeding off the energy of the crowd. And that's all part of it. Also, with wrestling, you always want a response. People who complain about what happens when Seth Rollins comes out, people that complain about the cheering along to Cody Rhodes music, I just think they have never been on the other side. They've never been in a position where you have a crowd responding to what you're doing. It's magic. Obviously, they're like booing can be negative, but there's also different kinds of booing. Like there is, with wrestling, you are getting a response. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
Like,
Thank you. I'm glad you.
I'm
glad you agree, because it just really we don't get it over here. We don't get live events often. So when it happens, like, people eat it up. And the fact that it's happening more and more, there's a reason it's happening more and more. It's because these European crowds are going rabid when, and then it's almost like when it comes back to the US, you're like, oh man, these crowds are going to be dead, which isn't always the case. Look at Madison Square Garden and stuff like that.
But when you're doing a show a week, like 3 shows a week, but a show a week for each brand, like, I think people kind of overlook how lucky we are that there's so much wrestling. Obviously, some of it can be overwhelming. There can be a lot. Sometimes it can have a negative effect, but we kind of take it for granted, and that's why sometimes you'll see people sitting during like really exciting matches or exciting promos. All the shows elsewhere, people are on their feet the entire time, and that's better for the performers.
Right.
Like they're not up there doing the Crucible. Like they're not up there doing something where you don't want people chanting. They're not doing stand up where you don't want people heckling or whatever. You want reactions out of the crowd while you're wrestling, be it during your entrance, during the match, or while you're talking. That's the whole point. So the complaints about that, get over yourself. Like, it's so silly to me. That's so silly.
Each country
here, I can't hear John Cena's music because they're chanting too loud.
Each country too, man, here has their own chants, and it gives each country its own character, and I'm loving it. Let's get to it. Let's cover SmackDown from Barcelona recently first. We had a big thing happened at the end of the show here. Finally, the Street Profits have become our new WWE Tag Team Champions. What did you think of this match versus DIY?
It's fantastic, and it's like just 2 great teams. Again, like, I'm so excited to see what will happen with these belts at WrestleMania, but that's like one of those sleeper like things that I'm excited for that the picture isn't super clear about yet. Also, I love the Street Profits. I love these belts because they look like the late 90s era tag team belts. I just thought it was great. I think it's about time. It was well overdue. Not that they haven't been champions before, but I feel like they've been kind of like waiting in the water for a little bit, and this felt like it was worth it. I think we talked about this, but was it last year's Elimination Chamber when Montez Ford like showed up? Like, I feel like Montez Ford has been like showing what he can do very consistently, and Angelo Dawkins is good as well, just not gotten as much of a spotlight. But I think this is earned and exciting. And again, I'm just excited for the SmackDown tag title picture or the tag team division.
Absolutely, man. And it seems like maybe we might be getting a match with Pretty Deadly versus them, who is the tag team that I'm really pushing for right now. They were in my who needs a push right now. So I would love to see a good program with them.
Yeah, and that's right. Street Profits were runners up, and now we know why. Like, that's because I was like, I feel like they're on the cusp of something. So
yeah, and it happened.
Cool.
It happened. SmackDown was pretty good from Barcelona. Not a ton of crazy stuff happened, but the other thing that did happen was a really, really fun brawl that kind of went on for a while between Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, which was hilarious because it took about 50 security to break this thing up between these two, which I
Mhm.
loved. Dude, I'm gonna say right now, they desperately needed a segment like this to get
Sure.
this rivalry heated up because
Mhm.
I will say it right now. I'm not really looking forward to this match as much as I am a lot more at
Mhm.
WrestleMania. I don't think that they've really set up this rivalry as strong as it could have been. And I think a lot of it has to do with Charlotte's return. I
Sure.
feel like a lot of people just weren't digging her coming back. And I think too, Tiffany Stratton just uh there's something missing right now with her. I
Mhm.
don't know if she's intimidated by Charlotte as a performer and she just can't like get up to that level, but her championship run so far, Tiffany's, has not been what I had hoped for after they
Gotcha.
strapped that rocket on her. But what did you think of this segment and what do you think about
I
this
I only saw bits
rivalry?
and pieces,
Okay.
but I'm excited for this one. I think it's one of the what's kind of funny is I feel like WrestleMania is having a rare problem that WWE doesn't often have, which is where they are booking good matches first and kind of figuring out story stuff second.
Mm,
Pardon me. And I think we're going to see more. Like I'll talk about a little bit more about that when we talk about Raw. But I think they're booking things where while the buildup might not be as strong as like between Jey Uso and Gunter or like all the Roman Reigns CM Punk stuff, or Roman Reigns Rollins and Punk stuff. Because the Cena and Road stuff I'm kind of indifferent about currently as well. They are booking matches where like if you were just to step back and look at the card, you'll be like, I'm sorry, it's Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley, but also Tiffany Stratton against Charlotte Flair, but also maybe CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns, but also Cody Rhodes against John Cena. Like there's just it is. I don't want to say undeniable because we'll see, but they're booking really good matches, like
yeah.
matches they are booking it like it's an AEW pay-per-view. And in a similar way, the stories building up to it are not that exciting, but the
Mm.
matches will probably deliver over 5 hours.
Right. It's like there was this time in my early days of playwriting in New York City where I was hired by a composer who
Mhm.
wrote an entire musical, wrote all the music, wrote all the lyrics, and had no story. So she hired me, a freelance playwright at the time, to come in and create a story around her pre-existing songs. So it was
Mhm.
almost like writing a musical backwards. It was so
Sure.
interesting. It was such a cool experiment for me as a writer to like try
Mhm.
to listen to the song, the end point, and like because in a musical, for those who don't know, like the song is the climax. Like that's when you
Right.
really are like, yeah, let's express what we're really feeling. So then it's my job to like link each of those songs and kind of lead up to it. So that was interesting too, because I wasn't used to doing that. So that's
Sure.
kind of how I view this. It's like,
Nice.
they have the end point, the songs are written, the 11 o'clock numbers ready to go for that standing ovation. But how do we get there? And I,
Yeah.
I have no doubt that they'll get there.
Yeah, I still wish Lin-Manuel Miranda gave you more credit on,
I
but
know.
that was
That was
next
pretty
time.
crappy
Next
of
time.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Anyways, moving on from my time with Mr. Manuel Miranda. Um, should we? I don't know. Let's move to Raw. Let's move to Raw,
Yeah,
Andrew.
sure.
So you did a mini review, and by mini I mean 1 minute long, of
Mhm.
Monday Night Raw's main event on our YouTube Shorts and our TikTok. So guys, go check that out. We're gonna try to do those for every Raw and SmackDown moving forward. Give you just let you know what happened in the main event, and then you come to this show, and we'll talk about what happened throughout the entire show. But we started Monday Night Raw pretty strong, I would say. We had the first promo since the heel
Mhm.
turn of John Cena. So
He looks great. He looks great in maroon.
oh man,
Or like the
looking
kind of
great.
like, I guess that's not maroon. That's more of like a dirty red, like or brick red. I don't know. It looks
Dirty
great. It
red.
looks good on him.
Ooh.
Looks good on him. A dirty
It looks
red.
good. I was so worried because you could tell how silent it was when they first started the show. You're like, oh, they're starting with Cena. Like you just knew. And then
Mhm.
we were all expecting something new, something different. And then
Mhm.
the song hits. The song. What did you
Mhm.
think?
I texted you at the time. I because you even texted me because I was actually at the boys ballet class. I think when you texted me,
Yeah, sorry about that.
like, oh, same song. No, it doesn't matter. It was fine. Like I'm back there. I can do two things. But you said like, oh, not a different song, and I said at the time, and I stand by it. I'm like, nah, keeping it the same makes it hurt a little bit more. Like puts a
Yep.
little bit more salt in the wound. So I actually don't mind that he kept the same song.
I love it.
Yeah. And then I timed it, or not timed it. I had to scrub forward. He stood there for 3.5 minutes soaking in
Getting
those
booed.
boos.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Which, like, I get, at one point he threatened to walk away, and I was like, he should have just walked away. He should have just walked out of there.
I know, dude.
He should have just
I'm
walked
with
out
you.
of there.
It would have been
He talked
so
for too
powerful.
long, in my opinion. He talked
He
for
did.
too long.
He
It was
pulled
too
a
long.
rock. And again,
No,
I
I
like
wouldn't say he pulled the Rock, only because I would almost guarantee that the Rock has no idea what he's going to say before he steps foot in that ring. John Cena gave us like an acting school monologue. He's a good
Yeah.
actor. There's good stuff in it, but it was very like it was a little indulgent, which I get.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I thought it was fine.
I
I like
really
the
liked
whole.
it.
It was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
I thought
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought, this whole he's like, I know you were all expecting a new song, new gear.
yeah.
No, you're not getting it. Like, I'm here for me now. This isn't for you. This isn't about you guys. This is about me. I don't care about what you guys think. You've forced me to be this one thing for so long. And the minute I try to be myself, you all turn on me, so I'm turning on you. And I like it. I thought it was a very smart way to address those fans out there who might have still continued to cheer him, which I think is WWE's biggest fear, is that
Sure.
Cena was gonna head into WrestleMania still, as hard as he damn well tries, still have fans cheering for him, which is they
Sure.
don't want when they
Right.
have this hero in Cody Rhodes. But yeah, I thought this was a genius move to make him come out and say, if there are still any fans of mine out there, I don't want you. I don't care about
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think it was definitely like, it's fun to see where it's going. We still got time. It's also, look, it's hard to come up with a new song and new gear when you find out you're going to do a heel turn like a week and a half before it happens.
Well,
That's the other thing.
that is
There's
a
no real
very
planning for it. And I know
I
there's been some disputing of that online. I am
yeah.
way more by the narrative that The Rock wanted Cody Rhodes to be his little bad guy, and Cody Rhodes said no. And then he was like, I guess Cena. Like, I don't buy it's the same as last year, which is that The Rock wanted to do something. There was a negative reaction, and then he fell ass backwards into one of the like better things he could end up doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Cena's great. I'm excited to see all this. I love that he's got a different shirt for every place, like every country that he's going to. Some person who should be avoided at all costs is going to have all those shirts in like a room somewhere at some point, on like different headless mannequins. But yeah, that's and then Cody. You got all your Cena
If you
shirts
could only
lined up.
see my closet, Andrew. Yeah.
Here's a question for you. You watched this whole thing live, right?
I did.
Or this segment at least. Cody comes out.
Yep.
Tells John Cena he's being a whiny little B word. We won't say it only because. Was it censored when you watched it?
Nope, not censored at all. It was
censored when I rewatched it, which I thought was kind of
Okay.
funny. And because I think I noticed for last week's Raw, they did like there were a couple times they tried to censor some F-bombs. even though Peacock had let the F5. I just think it's funny that there's no clear direction yet about whether or not they're just going to like let language
Yeah,
like fly free.
I think they're feeling it out. They're seeing what
Yeah.
they're putting their toes in the water, as it were.
Because
and-
I like, and not to play like the part of Ted Sarandos, but like I don't think WWE, I don't think Monday Night Raw or the whatever is worth $5 billion if it's not as much of a family oriented product.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's just not, like, in a very literal sense, like in a very, like, they're looking at how many people are tuning in. If they feel like if people feel like they have to turn away. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting. I think it's fun that they're kind of going back and forth with that. But every time, sometimes my kids will say like poop or butt, and like they know that they're like not supposed to say it, or like, you know, those words are fine, but they think they're getting away with something. That's what it has felt like every time Cody Rhodes has said a swear word so far.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, yeah, I said a swear. Ooh, I cussed.
Okay, I agree with you. However, I thought this segment, I felt like Cody Rhodes had to do this, and I thought it was a great way to set up like, what is this? What I don't.
Sure.
I'm not wrestling this John Cena, this crybaby. Like, where's the John Cena I want to wrestle at WrestleMania? Because if this is the John Cena that comes to WrestleMania, I'm gonna steamroll you, man. And I thought Cody held his own. I really did. I was very surprised that John Cena did not react at all to this. He kind of just, his head hung low and he sauntered off into the distance after this promo by Cody. I thought it was great.
I don't disagree with that aspect of it. I think, but nobody's talking about that. Nobody. That's not what makes the dirt sheets or the you know, the skeets or the like social media or whatever. It's all, he said the F word or he called him a whiny little B word, and both times have just felt painfully inauthentic to me in a way
That's
that
fair.
I don't know if it's like Cody's issue. I don't know if it's just how he's been packaged with it not making sense, or if it's just something that it could just be a personal thing for me. Not that like I don't mind curse words. I just like CM Punk calling Seth Rollins an mother effer like hits harder and reads better.
Right.
Whereas like with Cody, it feels like he's making himself trying to sound tough, and it just doesn't work. Like Cody Rhodes is tough because of how he handles himself in the ring, not because he's not afraid to say words that'll get censored later. Like I just, it's a weird, but that's what's kind of leading this whole thing. And the whole thing is just kind of like, I'm like, okay, it's like, well,
Yeah.
I'd much rather like Cena not say nothing and just like try to beat him up again, or like do hey, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't have a proper answer. I think they're doing what they can, and I agree. Like, they're both good at this. So I wouldn't say I'm being like nitpicky. I just think that something like there doesn't feel like there's any genuine heat between the two of them, and that is something that I think is, again, like very more apparent between Punk, Rollins, and Reigns, or even Reigns and Rhodes last year.
That's fair. Yeah. I think they'll get there. I think we still got a ways to go. There's one more thing I want to mention about this before we move on to the other highlights of Raw. We need to mention our hero. This child is going to become a meme, a WWE meme. I have to. I'm sorry. It's just John Cena pointed out this child in the first row and said, this kid and so many others of you out there are in a toxic relationship and you need to get out. And then they cut to this kid who looked so confused, so dejected, so sad. And then it looks like maybe his dad behind him just savoring it and laughing about all of this. This kid, man, I feel a part of me feels so bad for him, but a part of me also is like, this, what are they going to do? Either this kid was a plant, or this kid is going to get tickets to WWE for life If
I will say, I mean, do they treat that Undertaker guy very well? I never looked into that very much. He'll be in a lot of video package, and they might send him like a Cena cameo at some point, but I doubt they'll like take care of him.
I do wonder. They did officially tweet out a photo of the kid. WWE did today. So I don't know. I'm sure they're in talks to do something, or this was all planned. I don't know.
Yeah, they're trying to grow their own Rizzler. This is how you do that. Yeah.
So another segment on Raw that happened, Andrew, that I think we should touch on was this contract signing. Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and then Rhea Ripley. So
yeah, Rhea Ripley comes out. Yeah. Look, I think it's one of those things where it feels like it should be a foregone conclusion that those three end up in the match together. And they're just kind of like, I don't know. Rhea comes out and she signs the contract, even though that's not how contracts work. Like, I'm sure that. Yeah, I think they're just kind of like spinning their wheels and killing time until they can just kind of build to it. It's kind of silly, but I didn't mind it, if that makes sense. Because at the end of that rainbow or the end of that journey or whatever is Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Io Sky in a triple threat match at WrestleMania. So whatever you got to do to get me there, I'm fine with. Like, wrestling doesn't make sense on its face. Like, it's a silly, stupid thing. Like,
these contract signings are like arbitrary to begin with.
Yeah, they're always kind of silly. Yeah, they're always kind of silly. So I didn't mind that much. But like the fact that Adam Pearce is like, what are you doing? And trying to grab the contract. She's like, nope, I'm taking this.
I signed it.
I'm like, I don't think that's how that works. But whatever.
To his credit, he did confront her backstage and say, just because you signed that doesn't make anything official. He did.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a segment about that, which I'm glad they did that.
Retracted. Perfect segment.
But it's still not like it hasn't been explained. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But I hope it happens. I would love to see this triple threat.
I hope it happens, and I hope it's a ladder match. I want a ladder match at WrestleMania.
Me too.
This year.
With Io Sky, you gotta.
Yeah. I mean, Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley, that'd be a rad ladder match.
And then our main event was Braun Breaker versus Finn Balor, which is what you did a mini review of. And do you want to run through that a little bit?
It was like I said it, but it was a really fun match. Like, Finn Balor is such a great wrestler, and I feel like he made Braun Breaker look better. Even like, I think Braun Breaker has done really well, but I think they both it was a really intense match too, for only being like about 10 minutes long.
It was short
when all was said and done. But I thought it worked really well. It was hashtag free Carlito. I'm just so tired of him in the Judgment Day. I want him to go do other cooler stuff. Same with Dom, to be honest. I think I'm just I want more for all three of them. And I think that the only way that works is if they just break up the Judgment Day and have them do other stuff. But I thought it was a great match. I loved Penta coming out at the end. And I think Penta against Braun Breaker would be great for WrestleMania, both because it's them taking advantage of how big a splash Penta has made already. They're going to get like a custom Penta Intercontinental title or something that you can get at the merch store, because apparently his merch is selling like crazy.
Okay.
The only thing that bums me out is it looks like I believe on SmackDown there were teases for both Rey Fenix and Malachi Black.
Yes, there were. Yes.
Yeah. So I not that Penta and Rey Fenix need to team up right away, but I'll be interested to see that if that ends up working in their favor. But anyway, I thought that was a great, like, having that standoff at the end was great. I hope they wrestle at WrestleMania. I think that would be a great match.
Absolutely.
Hashtag free Carlito.
Free Carlito, I'm with you. We should mention too, really awkward squash match with Jey Uso that I didn't really care for. He also had a pretty scary botch there where he tried to do a flip and landed on his back on the apron. It looked bad, dude. So I hope he's okay.
Not great.
Sending our best to him. Yeah. But yeah, what a pointless match. I understand, like, they had to set something up. They're setting up a tag team match for next week in Glasgow, Scotland. We don't know who Jey Uso's partner is going to be, but I have a pretty good feeling if you say his name, he will appear.
Jimmy Uso.
Damn it. Answer.
Are you talking about Jimmy Uso?
I am not.
I just said Jimmy
No,
Uso, and he did not.
he did not. No. So why don't you take another stab at that one? Okay.
Ah, gotcha. Another stab. Okay.
Uh,
It's the Butcher. Abdullah the Butcher is going to be his partner. is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Nice. There it is. Okay. I pick up on
Man.
clues.
We got to
Um,
work on our improv. I do believe we're going to see a Joe Hendry feature
Nice.
in Glasgow, Scotland. I do. Yeah.
As they should. And that's exciting. I think it's one of those things where I think the angle of Gunther being like, I'm going to beat you real bad at WrestleMania and embarrass you, and Jay having to be like, well, I'll go out and win these matches. Like it's kind of like running thin. It wouldn't super fit his character, but I feel like, or that I'm not like, I don't want to like writing this stuff is hard, booking this stuff is hard, but I think a better way to have gone that would have had more legs to it would be Gunther to be like, I'm gonna get everything thrown at you possible to make sure you do not wrestle this wrestle me at WrestleMania because you don't deserve it. Just because you won the Royal Rumble doesn't mean you deserve it. So here's a match against 2 people. Here's a match against 3 people. Here's a match against somebody way bigger than you. Here's a match against like more of that kind of stuff than just like I'm gonna get in your head. You're bad at this, and then
Right.
Jey Uso ended up doing something that made him look bad at this, even though he's not. I do not think that he is. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. And shout out to Axiom in Spain and Barcelona. He went up against Gunther and had an incredible match. So I have a feeling we're going to see Axiom on the main card in the near future as well. So yeah, awesome, buddy. Well, that's all I got for SmackDown and Raw. Should we?
I got it for you. No, speaking of rivalries,
love it. Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan Sprague here from Somewhere in the Ring, and Andrew and I just wrapped an awesome episode of the podcast. We can't wait to share it with you soon, but before we do that, we need your help. We need your ratings and reviews, specifically on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, the 2 largest platforms in the world to get podcasts. Now, we are a small independent podcast, and we are going up against some pretty big hitters in the wrestling world. So in order to get featured, in order for us to find new listeners and gain visibility, we need your help. And that starts with a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It takes just a couple moments, but it means the world of difference to us. So from Andrew and I, thank you so much for your unwavering support. We can't wait to keep doing the show, and we hope you will consider a rating and review for us somewhere in the ring.
Three dream rivalries. Any era, any whatever, mix and match. We basically played our little, we're playing our little WWE 2K25, as it were. And we're mixing and matching. And I'm gonna wait, no, you have a runner-up. I'm gonna let you do your runner-up first.
I do.
You said you have a runner-up.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for this one? Now, we're living in a world right now where tensions are a little high between the U.S. and Canada. So
No idea what
I
you're
thought,
talking
what's going on? I thought it'd be fun if we had, this is a runner-up, American Made with special guest Kurt Angle versus the Hart Foundation.
Ooh.
So
sure.
Dude, that would be electric right now if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I would just love to see that match. Obviously, you will see from our Facebook group members, we had a lot of people who really wanted to see Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart. A surprising amount of people wanted that. So I thought this would be a fun, creative way to sort of do that. At least get them in the ring together in a big match. I don't know what kind of match or program I would want, but I think it'd be pretty cool to have a U.S. versus Canada program rivalry going on. So that was my runner-up.
And look, they're not leaning into that stuff because they had American Made losing to LWO last night, and then also like Chad Gable running around in an American.
That's not him.
Match.
That's not him.
They're drawing off that heat. Yeah, you're right. Corey Graves, great job last night on the Raw team. By the way, I thought that was
very
he
convincing.
did a great job. Yep, and but he also like it's nice to know that like the man took a swing that did not go well for him and is still around. And I'm kind of
Yeah, they threw him a bone there for sure.
Yeah. All right. So my number 3.
Yes.
I'm just gonna do my number 3 because I think it's kind of an obvious one. I'm sure I'm not the first. I didn't look at any. I let you sift through the social media comments and stuff that we got. So I was trying to not be influenced, as it were.
Oh, good. Okay.
So if somebody else pitched this one, I wouldn't be surprised. But for me, it would be it's April 1998. D-Generation X shows up outside of Monday Night Nitro, but the NWO actually comes out and confronts them. Like, and at that time, you had Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, and Kevin Nash. I can already tell this is one of yours.
It was my number one.
It was your number one?
It was my number one. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time. No, this one should have been yours, to be honest. I know you're a big NWO fan, but it makes sense.
And even that, I like the branding. I like the branding of NWO.
Absolutely.
I think most NWO storylines are awful. Like they're really
terrible.
bad. Most of the wrestling. I remember at one point watching a Nitro where it's just them taking over and they're like dismantling the set and all this stuff for like 2 hours. That's all it is for 2 hours, is them not being able to have a show because NWO was like messing around. It was so boring and awful. And it just like evolves into this huge thing that is like I strangles that company to death.
Yeah.
Why did you what were your thoughts on that? I love that era of DX. Like I like DX. I love Billy Gunn.
Yeah.
Like I think it could have been fun, even though they are kind of like the same.
Well, and that's why I chose it. I mean, if you look at the history of the Monday Night Wars, like D-Generation X was directly influenced by the NWO.
Sure.
It was the WWE's version of the NWO. They said, we got to do this rebellious thing, shake things up against the, the execs and all that stuff. And we got DX, which would ultimately become like one of the most iconic things in WWE history, ushered in the entire Attitude Era. So it made sense to me that why wouldn't you? Oh, first of all, like when WCW folded and a bunch of them went over to WWE, these three didn't. The NWO did not go over. Had they, could you imagine like that? I really feel like that would have really saved the invasion angle. And also it would be a true Monday Night War if you had the NWO and DX. So that's why I chose it.
Which is fair. The only snag with that, I don't think anything would have saved that invasion angle, because at the end, WWE had to come out like so crisply on top. I think the snag there is you never would have been able to recreate NWO's first appearance when it was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash walking around being called by their real names. And it feeling like a literal invasion, like having that feeling of, and things were, kayfabe was still more alive and well. There were certainly people on the message boards, but like it had that different kind of feeling. Even when Vince brought NWO in eventually, which wasn't too long after the invasion storyline, it didn't have the same kind of power. It's just weird, but I don't disagree that, like, of course, like you cannot, those two teams epitomize the Monday Night War. So it only makes sense to have them go against each other. What's also kind of fun is it's almost like an old guard versus a new young guard kind of a thing too. Like DX being a much younger team. So
yeah, I thought it's a great choice. Obviously, if we both chose it, surprisingly, I don't think anyone in our Facebook group chose it. So that's interesting. Yeah. Shame on you guys. No, they came up with some really good ones. We'll get to those.
Excellent.
Should I go to my number 3?
Do it.
All right. I got a little backstory for this one too, because I think it's pretty interesting. I want to see Shawn Michaels versus The Rock. It never happened in the entire history. They never had a singles
Wow.
match against each other. A couple times they were in the ring with, either tag team or something, but they never faced each other one-on-one. And this is funny. I found this out. When Shawn Michaels was on top in 96 and 97, The Rock wasn't big enough star yet to face him. When The Rock became a main eventer in 1998, Shawn had just gone down with his injury. When Shawn
Sure.
returned in 2002, The Rock had one foot out of the door to Hollywood
Yep.
and only had 4 pay-per-view matches before completely leaving the company. And then when The Rock returned in 2011, Shawn had just retired the year earlier. So,
That's
dude,
so
they
funny.
just were like, I
Wow.
know. It just never happened.
That's crazy.
And a lot of people wanted this match. A lot of people
Mhm.
dreamed about this rivalry. And Michaels actually commented on why it never happened. I have a quote from him here
Oh,
that I'll
sure.
read really quick. He said, "It's just one of those things. The would have, could have, should have's. I wish it had happened, but you go down that line and there's so many. There are always ones you can dream about. I can't speak for him, but I like the fact that as a performer, you should always leave them wanting more. And I think we did that."
Sick. Sick.
Yep. Great
Yep.
quote. I love that.
Yep.
It's got me
Yep.
wanting it. That's why we're talking about it right now.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
and I can just only imagine a match between those two, what we would have seen. It would have been electric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's my number 3, baby.
Sweet.
Yeah.
My number 2 is also something that was close to happening, and I think it may have gotten discussed why it didn't happen at some point, but I didn't dive that deeply. But mine's a little bit different. At one point, the Fiend was supposed to maybe attack Stone Cold, but I had to Google real quick, but when I first thought of this, just to make sure it didn't happen earlier, because we're picking from eras. I would have loved to see late 90s Stone Cold against the Wyatt family, like specifically the sheep masks, the Bayou kind of like what's called villain, true detective villain. Formation of the Wyatt family. I would have loved to see them against Stone Cold. Like that to me would have been this kind of perfect, like, oh, you have this kind of like Southern guy, but then you have these guys that are way Southern, like kind of a different kind of Southern and dirty. I think you could have had like some cool, fun, interesting kind of matches with them. And I think
just Bray Wyatt or the entire Wyatt?
No, the family. I think you got to include. So you've got maybe even Braun Strowman, but Eric Rowan and jeepers, I feel so awful that I can't remember his name. Brody. Luke Harper was his name, but when he was in WWE, but that's not his real name. Luke Harper, Jonathan Huber, Brody Lee in AEW.
Brody Lee,
Luke Harper.
And Luke
R.I.P.
Okay.
He was rad.
Yeah.
But Wyatt family against Stone Cold.
I love that, man. I love that. You got like a Texas brawler, and then you've got these weird, like really
weird rednecks,
Louisiana-esque rednecks. Oh man.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be a dirty, dirty match. I can tell you that much. Yeah. Love it. All right. This is the one where I really fantasy booked. This was a fun one for me to think about. I want, since we just had like the bloodiest conclusion to a story over at AEW between Mariah May and Toni Storm. By the way, that is the first ever women's 5-star match in AEW. So kudos to them for doing that. I would love to see Toni Storm and Mariah May team up against Trish Stratus and Lita.
Yeah. Okay.
So you've got these two bitter rivals in WWE at one era of Trish and Lita. And then you've got these two bitter rivals, Toni Storm and Mariah May, right now.
Sure.
And what fuels like a team to come together more than like being enemies at first, you know?
Right.
I can attest, one of my most biggest enemies in college became one of my closest friends, actually. So I mean, it happens.
Is it Nick?
It's not Nick. It's not Nick. No. But yeah, dude. I think this would just be an incredible tag team rivalry between these two. Be so rich with drama because, like, you know, you're a team, but you also clearly hated each other at one point.
Right.
So you get that inner drama between each team member. wanting to come out on top. And yeah, and Tony Khan still sees WWE and AEW at war for some reason, even though they're really not. But I think if Tony Khan, if he's gonna act like this, there is a war going on, then let's throw it down with two of, the WWE's vets, and then AEW's two current women stars. So yeah, and it has to be unsanctioned tag team match. Come on, man. Shut them lights off.
Well,
I don't
should
want to
hope
see
so.
pinstripes on those refs, and I
yeah,
just want to
yeah.
see somebody die in this match.
Oh God. Okay. All right. Relax. Um,
I'm sorry.
my number
I'm
one-
passionate.
No, it's okay. It's okay. My number one involves Kofi Kingston. We're talking post WWE title win. Kofi Kingston, Brock Lesnar, not with the company, so he's not ruining anything like he did. And I want Kofi Kingston to go up against shirt and tie wearing Mankind. I wanted to start with like very much a Mankind's trying to be like his new fan or whatever, like really excited for him, excited that he won the belt, and then just can't stop screwing things up, getting too close, getting weird. That kind of thing playing out. We've seen that happen in wrestling plenty of times. And then eventually they just have this like nice long crazy violent kind of feud. I was just trying to think, I'm like, who are like two of the more like different superstars I could put against each other, but also my favorites. And so that comes Mankind, Kofi Kingston. Nice,
very
long,
different
weird
wrestlers.
feud.
Yeah, that would be super weird, man.
Yeah.
But something tells me they could make it work.
Yeah,
make it work.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good one. Really good one. Awesome. Is that it? Did
Yeah.
we breeze
that's it.
through them, man?
Who do we got from the fans?
All right, you ready? We got over on our
Mm.
Facebook group on I was gonna say our Facebook group on Facebook. So go check that out, guys.
I mean, that's not untrue.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
at all. No lies detected.
Yeah.
Join the group, guys. We get your comments and we put them on the show here all the time. And we had first up Chris W. He would have killed for a Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle, both in their prime. So there you go, right there. Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, great one. Andy McGrillen, Pat's guest of the show.
Andy,
he chimed in as well. He would want to see Kurt Angle. Ooh, a lot of Kurt Angles. Kurt Angle versus Steamboat. That would be pretty good. Would have been very special. And then he also wants to see Punk versus Rowdy Piper. So yeah, I can see that one getting a little brutal for sure. So good choices there, Andy. Anthony D. He's got a couple here. He also had Kurt Angle versus Bret Hart. That's 2 or 3 now. And then he had Joe versus Bruiser Brody. I don't know who he meant by Joe. Maybe Joe?
Yeah, maybe. Or Joe Hendry.
Samoa
Joe versus Bruiser Brody sounds a little bit more.
It does.
I mean, they sound very similar. I feel like it would be a very similar kind of like two similar-ish wrestlers going against each other. But I feel like that would make more sense.
Yeah, agreed. So there's his first. He then has Cody versus CM Punk, and his last was Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle. So good ones there.
Gotcha.
Bruce P on Facebook said he wants to see John Cena versus Joe Hendry, which Hendry's been campaigning for. Who knows?
I'm sure he has. Yeah. I've also been campaigning to direct a movie for Warner Brothers, but like that's not gonna.
Never say never.
I don't get me wrong. Joe Hendry is much closer to his goal than I am to mine, but like, come on.
Never give up.
Like, of course he wants that. That's like I love that a lot of articles online, the headlines will devolve down to basically like this actor would love to work again, like because it's all like, oh, Paul Rudd says he would love to be in this kind of movie, or this person says they would love to be in a Marvel movie, or it all equates to like, yeah, I'd love to have work. Sure, if I could work in like these real high profile places that would pay me a lot of money, that would be great. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
You just know their agents are like paying to get those articles put out there. Like, let's drum up some interest here. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Cena versus Joe Hendry. It could happen. Nathaniel W chimed
Nate.
in. Nate says he wants a 3-match program between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Taz. Ooh, that would be good.
Ooh.
That would be
okay.
a really brutal match. Brutal is
Yeah.
my buzzword of the day, guys. And he said the blow off would have to be a Hell in a Cell, naturally. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oof.
Oh man, I missed that like brief period of time when Taz was like in WWE. And
Me
just
too.
destroying people.
Massacred people, dude.
Yep. Yeah.
What
Yep.
was that one
Taz
he
mission
did?
was-
The
Taz mission,
submission.
man.
Yep.
Yeah, the Taz mission.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So good.
Love him. Love Taz. Awesome. Good choice, Nate. He's got a couple more here. Tag team Texas tornado match. Ooh, he's getting specific. Between the Dudleys and God.
God. Oh boy.
I don't know who
name
that
sounds
is.
really familiar, but I don't either. There you go.
Yeah.
Leave
Nate,
another
we're
comment, so
failing.
I'll put it.
We are
I wanna look
failing
it
as
up.
wrestling
Keep
podcasters.
talking.
You look that
Lover's
up,
not
and
expert,
then
baby.
his last one was he wants to see a program between Swerve Strickland and Braun Breaker. Ooh, that'd be a
Ooh,
good one. That would be meat slapping meat for sure.
Yeah.
That'd be a really, really good
Oh,
one.
duh! The Gorillas of Destiny. I would have known that if it was said that way.
Oh,
That's
okay.
That's Tamatanga and Tongaloa.
Right.
So yeah,
Okay.
fair enough.
That's fair, buddy. That is fair.
I just wrote it. I was like, God wrestling. I was like, oh, there we go. That makes sense.
You mean Vince
so-
McMahon didn't show up?
Yeah. Boom. Swish. Nailed it.
Wasn't he God? Yeah.
No,
okay.
yeah. It's because I didn't search for Satan.
I smell sulfur.
Both
Anyways.
McMahons. They weren't gonna have the most sterling like legacy, but oh man, him and Linda have spent the last year like speed running into the annals of history. Like just the worst people in existence being like, I can be worse. Like,
Yeah.
how dare you think I can't be worse? I will get there.
They must have some really perverted wager going on between the two of them. Yeah, to just be the scum of the earth. I don't get it.
It's real bad.
All right, we've got a couple more here, and then we'll start to wrap things up. Brian Whitmore, our incredible moderator over at our Facebook group, he's got some good ones here. As a kid, he stresses these were mine. 92-95 version. Surfer Sting versus Bret Hart. That's a good one. Surfer Sting. Meng versus Ken Shamrock. The West Texas Rednecks versus the Nation of Domination. Ooh, that would be Rednecks versus a group of all black wrestlers.
Look, man,
there we go.
And that's not above what WWE would do. What the first live show I ever went to, I saw Southern Justice against Farouk and Too Cold Scorpio. So like, they would not be against booking stuff like that. It would be weird, though. It would be bad. I get what Brian's saying. I think it would make a lot of people uncomfortable.
I'm glad he said, as a kid, this is what I want.
As a kid, no, look, why not?
Try it now. Try it now in 2025, Brian. Yeah. Rob Van Dam versus Glacier versus Mortis. I haven't heard the name Glacier since our first episode, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, seriously. That's
awesome.
Amazing. Glacier.
Shout out to Glacier. I wonder what he's up to these days. All right. And for a main event, he wants DDP versus The Rock, People's Champ versus People's Champ. So there you go.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been, man, those two in their prime, that would have been great. Like late 90s DDP against late 90s Rock. Been a good match.
That would have been awesome, dude. That would have been awesome. And Bree over at Brisbee YouTube channel chimed in on this. She said, this isn't really a rivalry, but I could watch Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton be a dysfunctional tag team for a few more months, to be honest. So
that's fair.
Yeah. I would love to see that. Yeah.
A little Barbenheimer action.
Yep, absolutely. So shout out to Brisbee. Thanks for putting that in last minute. She got it in right before we started recording. So thank you. Thank you to all our Facebook members for sending those in. We love getting you guys involved. Yeah. But that's gonna do it, Andrew, for our top 3 rivalries. So yeah, buddy, you got anything else
Excellent.
before we get out of the ring?
I got nothing, and I should go get ready for work. So
You
look,
gotta get ready.
as always, go to patreon.com/somewhere in the ring. We've got some new stuff coming that way. Follow us on all the socials, like, review, subscribe. It really does help. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, all that good stuff. And yeah, look me up. I'm around. What you got,
Nice.
Ryan?
Well, hey, we did put out a brand new episode of Somewhere in the Indies, so go back in the
Yes.
archives, guys. We interviewed indie wrestler out of Texas, Kari Wright, so you can watch that right now. And then Andrew and I hopped over to Patreon and did a match commentary of one of Kari Wright's matches. So you'll be able to check that out as well very soon.
And we'll have a
Patreon.com.
why not tease it? We also got a Seth Rollins a Shield versus CM Punk match that we're going to talk about on there too. We're probably going to save the match commentaries just for Patreon going forward. So if you want to hear those, hop on over.
I'd never seen that match before. I was blown away, and you can hear it in my voice in the match commentary for sure. So yeah, check those out. I just recently did a watch along of one of my Mysteries Decoded episodes, a television show that both Andrew and I were graced to be involved.
If you go on Wikipedia, I am listed as a noted cryptozoologist. So
yes, you are.
It hasn't been removed yet.
I refuse to let them remove it. So you're welcome. You're welcome. But yeah, I did a watch along of our Phoenix Lights episode. We just celebrated the 28th anniversary of the famous Phoenix Lights UFO incident, where thousands of people in Phoenix saw a massive UFO fly over the city. But yeah, I did a whole watch along of my episode, and it was super fun to give people the behind the scenes. So you could check that out on my Patreon for Somewhere in the Skies. We'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes for you guys. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, YouTube Shorts are going to be doing a lot more over there. So make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel if you aren't already. And our TikTok as well. Just search Somewhere in the Ring on all social media. And that's going to do it, buddy. Let's ring that bell and let's get you to work.
Yes, please. Here, hold on.
Does not sound like a can at all.
It doesn't, and I got really nervous because I put it on my computer to do it because I'm an idiot, like I'm a dumb person.
We need that computer, please. I can't do this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.